it's time to take a look at all the new movies that are coming out. And when we want to find out what they're about, we always go over and head out to the left coast to check in with Michael Snyder. Hi, Michael.
Well, hi, Alex, and hello, America, Europe, and all the ships at sea. Hope everybody's having a fine time. I've put on the old harness and headed to the theater and watched a few films, and maybe we should get to the reviews right now.
Do it.
Okay, so Ghostbusters is upon us. And basically, it's a 30 years later reboot of the supernatural sci-fi comedy that starred Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray, the late Harold Ramis, and Ernie Hudson as four wacky defenders of humanity against hilarious paranormal threats. I mean, I love that film. And yes, that's the movie that invented You've Been Slimed. And, so Nickelodeon ran with that ball, didn't they? Anyway, it's been reinvented as essentially the same movie, only with four women as the Ghostbusters. How 21st century. To its credit, the women in the lead roles are fairly adept at comedy. Kristen Wiig, Melissa McCarthy, Kate McKinnon, and Leslie Jones, the latter two still in the cast at Saturday Night Live, and of course Kristen Wiig, a veteran of that show. And they've put Chris Hemsworth in the role of their receptionist, the Annie Potts role in the original, if you will. And that's kind of inspired, but making him a dim-witted beefcake to point out the dominant heroic position of the women seemed a little knee-jerk to me. Let's just say, I know Ghostbusters, and this does not measure up to the original. And it's not the gender swap or the actresses or the effects. I mean, you got to blame the writing. It had a lot of overwhelming effects work and bombast and fan service. I mean, seriously, cameo after cameo in this movie. Some inside jokes addressing people's caveats of remaking the film. But other than the gender switch for the main Ghostbusters, it's not particularly fresh. And it's only intermittently funny. I mean, I could watch Kate McKinnon and Leslie Jones do most anything and be entertained, as is the case on the more half-assed Saturday Night Live sketches they do. And by the way, it does seem like a very expensive, really long SNL sketch at times. Yeah, what if the Ghostbusters were women? And hey, there are more than a few alumni and current cast members on screen. I don't, rather than list them, I'll just trust me. The biggest problem here are an entirely unmemorable villain with an actor who I don't even kind of recognize, who hasn't done great work in the past. And this guy has, at best, vague motivations and backstory. Many of the characters are undeveloped, although McKinnon transcends that with sheer bravura looniness, and the story's thin. It's only there to be a shaky platform for a bunch of these eye-boggling latter-day visual effects and some pretty good 3D, believe it or not. The director and co-writer, Paul Feig, this guy is a veteran of TV sitcoms, and he's filmed some damned funny films, specifically Spy with McCarthy and Bridesmaids with Wiig and McCarthy. But he also directed the crappy Melissa McCarthy, Sandra Bullock comedy, The Heat, and actually he's going to give us The Heat 2, was the first one, unbelievably did well at the box office. I say no thanks to that. And this is considerably better than The Heat and will be inspiring and empowering for young girls who want to grow up to be comedic action stars or Ghostbusters. Still, despite what you hear, not a great comedy. Comedy is subjective, and I say eh. The Infiltrator, on the other hand, I liked much more. It's a topical thriller about a U.S. customs official who uncovers a money laundering scheme involving the Colombian drug lord Pablo Escobar. And we're seeing a lot of TV shows, miniseries, and specials about Escobar. This is a dramatization of the tale of U.S. customs agent Robert Bob Mazer, who goes undercover in 1985 to infiltrate Escobar's network as a money laundering businessman, complete with a chic wife who is, in fact, also an undercover agent, played by Diane Kruger in one of her best performances on the big screen. I mean, I loved her in The Bridge, the adaptation of the Scandinavian thriller for TV, and I'd never really liked her much as an actress before that. She's really good in this. This is a very engrossing, well-executed, well-cast, and well-acted movie with a bravura performance by Cranston as Mazer. Bob has a real wife and family that complicates his professional life and his duties practically and emotionally. And there's some serious tension and some boilerplate movie moments that seem a little too familiar as they play out. but the vivid characterizations really carry the day. The acting here is fantastic. John Leguizamo plays Bob's hair-trigger fellow agent. Joseph Gilgan, the goofball from Channel 4's Misfits, plays a gunman that Bob springs from jail to watch his back and advise him. And Gilgan is really great. And Benjamin Bratt is Escobar's sophisticated and charming top lieutenant who Bob befriends, and that totally complicates matters. Brad Furman directed in a very deliberate way, but we become so invested in Bob and his partners, and actually characters like the character played by Bratt, that the results are solid. I mean, I was, if you will, persuaded by The Infiltrator. Okay, the latest Woody Allen film in a long series of movies over a long and celebrated career is Cafe Society. It's a comedic period piece set in 1930s Hollywood and starring Steve Carell, Jesse Eisenberg, Kristen Stewart, and Parker Posey, among others, Corey Stoll. It's a good cast, and it's light and charming and kind of right in my wheelhouse because I love that whole 30s Hollywood thing. You know, in the Depression, they were the dream factory, bringing inspiration and entertainment to an America on the downward slide. But this movie is not one of Allen's best, yet it is better than quite a few. I will kind of not name check, but deride the previous film he did, which starred Joaquin Phoenix as a murderous college professor. Not a very good film. But Cafe Society is fun, and it's bubbly, and it's about Bobby, a young man who tires of working for his father, who's a jeweler in the Bronx. So he heads to Hollywood, where his uncle is a successful hotshot agent, and asks for a job. Bobby is played by Eisenberg in one of his sort of nebbish roles, something he is far more adept at than playing, say, supervillain Lex Luthor. So it's right in his sweet spot. Bobby becomes a gopher for his uncle, played by Stephen Carell, in a kind of very unlikely. I mean, he's a good actor, and he's been proving it time and again. And this is not a broad comedy role for Carell, but it's very solid. Anyway, he falls for his uncle's lovely assistant. And again, this is Kristen Stewart, who over the course of the past few years, since the Twilight movies, has proven herself to be a really good actress. And she's adorable and very convincing in this role as the object of desire. As Bobby moons for her and tries to get next to her, she says, "Hey, you know, I'm involved." And in any event, he meets all these actors and show business people and gets caught up in the maelstrom. And he tries to negotiate this crazy world, this high society he exists amid, while at the same time staying in touch with his down-to-earth, or shall we say, earthy Bronx family. Anyway, I really enjoyed Cafe Society. And again, not one of Allen's greatest, but, you know, I can't complain. I walked out of there feeling kind of up and happy. So that says a lot. Let's wrap things up with Phantom Boy, which is an acclaimed French animated feature about a kid who's kind of got a disease and seems to be close to death, but actually it leads him to be able to leave his body and transcend the physical world. And this enables a wheelchair-bound policeman to bring down a villain, bring down a kingpin, a gangster who's trying to control the city's power supply. So it's set in New York, even though it's a French film, and that's kind of bizarre because, you know, you want to see it in the original French with subtitles. At least I do. I know there's an English language version, which I did not see, and that version features the likes of Vincent D'Onofrio and Fred Armisen among the better-known voice actors. So that kind of doesn't matter. But, you know, it's still lovely. It's done by Alan Gagnon and Jean-Luc Feliccioli, who... at least one of these guys was behind A Cat in Paris, which was an Academy-nominated animated theme. I really enjoyed this a lot. I thought it was really cool as the kid develops this phantom body and phantom powers and keeps reporting back to the detective to stop this lunatic from destroying New York City. Yeah, you know, maybe if you're opposed to subtitles, go see it in the English language dub. But again, a real pleasure to watch Phantom Boy. What's up with you, man? Seen any films or TV worth remarking about?
Not really. No. Nothing that I'm crazy about. I kind of like what's his name? The comedian. Dennis Leary. His thing's sex, drugs, and rock and roll. It's pretty funny.
Did you watch The Night of, episode 1?
Yeah, I saw that weeks ago, yeah.
Yeah, and what's your sense of it?
I think it's promising, short run summer thing,
I did go back and watch the first season of Criminal Justice, which is the British show that inspired this, that was adapted to make this, and I guess was acquired by James Gandolfini as a project for himself, where he would play the John Turturro role in The Night of, and of course his untimely death kind of derailed that idea. But I really enjoyed Criminal Justice, and it kind of gets to the point a little quicker and does not have the Muslim American subplot. So it's a different sort of film, a different sort of TV show, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with The Night of. So that's one thing I think I can recommend that people check into.
Yeah, and girlfriend is binge watching Marseille.
With Gerard Depardieu as the corrupt mayor of the French capital of the South, essentially.
Yeah. And that's about it, Otherwise,
what's the reaction to Marseille so far?
It's okay. It reminds me of like Dallas or any of those Dynasty, or it really, and I can't get over how fat Depardieu is. So
man, he's enormous. Holy crap!
Yeah,
it's like he's going to explode. I will say this:
he's literally the biggest star in France.
Very nice. It does prove that the French can make kind of weird soap operatic political thriller baloney.
Yeah.
Same as we can.
Anyway, that's it.
Yeah, that's it. You can check me out on Twitter at Culture Blaster. You can go to the Michael Snyder's Culture Blast page on Facebook and listen to Alex and I chat about stuff and read articles and what have you. And you can check back with us next week on GABNet and I guess Roku as well for more reviews.
All right. Thank you very much, Michael. And we'll see you next week. And there's more GABNet coming right up.